What's up, guys? John with National Sports Entertainment. And we have a good bit of NBA games tonight. We're basically playing them all. At first, I had like three that I didn't like too much, but then I figured there's so many games, it's kind of silly not to just play them. So if it was like an 8-game schedule and there was three I didn't like, well, that's almost half the games. But in this case, it's such a small amount. And I did think on it. I try and think on them, and if I even lean one way, then I obviously will try and make the play. So I think it's a good schedule tonight. Last big schedule was a couple nights ago, and we got cremated. So hopefully we take this one and get back to our winning ways. So right off the bat, I like the Pistons for the cover. Blazers coming off a win, feeling high and mighty. And if you watched my very last video, a lot of these picks make a little more sense. Not everyone's going to line up with my season-long predictions, of course, but I do think the Pistons will have a chance at the play-in this year. I think they're going to be a much improved team versus the Blazers, who are just going to be drawing dead again. And that was the reason I made that video, basically to categorize how I feel like each team is going to be, not only comparative to last year, but in general as well. So I think the Pistons are going to look strong a good amount of games this year. And the games like this, where I think you're going to have a lot of 50-50 from the public, just because they look at them both as trash, they might want the plus odds. I like Detroit for the cover. Bucks Raptors, I like the Bucks to win this game, but the Raptors to cover it. And I'll show my exact unit sizes in a second. I have the Bucks win is in a parlay, and the Raptors covers by itself. I just think it seems very fishy. 5. It reminds me of the Magic Lakers the other night, where we had the Magic covering because it was a ridiculous spread. It was like 3 points, which, again, I'll show in a second why that was so ridiculous. But yeah, I think the Bucks are going to win, but I like the Raptors to cover. Now this game, I am playing the plus money play. I like the Wizards to win. Again, if my last video, I went into a lot of these teams. I went into every one of the teams. So, and some of the matchups are pretty, I would say, informative as far as, in my opinion, depending on who wins the games, if we're over the target. But I don't think the Hawks are going to do too much crazy this year. Yes, I do have them, getting back to the play-in playoffs, but I still see them as a first, at best, second-round elimination, probably a first-round elimination. They might be sellers come free agent time. I could see them moving Hunter. They're not really talking about them as far as getting another star. If you notice, they'll reserve that talk for certain teams. The Hawks just really don't get much media attention, which is why I don't believe in them. Again, the Wizards with JP, he gets talked about a lot. I think they have some big things planned for him, so I'm going to take the Wizards for the plus value. I think they'll win this match. The Hawks are just coming off a big win against Milwaukee, too, so I think the public's going to be more on the Hawks here than on the Wizards. Pacers Celtics. Now, this one kind of deviates. I had gone into, it was in my last video, I'd gone into how I thought at least the Pacers were going to have a marked improvement from last year, and I still think they will. But that's weird. It moved from 11.5 to 11. I was just about to say, because today is 11-1. So I found that interesting, and I took the Celtics because they were at 11. Then it moved to 11.5, then it moved back to 11. I think they're going to win decisively, so whether you get the 11 or the 11.5, I like the Celtics to cover the Pacers. Even though I have the Pacers having a good year, like I said, you need somebody that looks almost as unstoppable as Milwaukee, so people will actually believe, oh wow, the Celtics can beat this team, so it's more believable. That's just my opinion. That's why I think the Celtics are going to probably do what Philadelphia Eagles did and have the undefeated record for the longest time for 2 years in a row. I think theirs was the longest last year. I thought they started like 11-0. I could be wrong, which would be odd if it was 11. But anyway, so yeah, I like the Celtics to cover this 11. I looked into the 11-1, and I couldn't. There's no 1-1 teams, or there's no teams that would move to 1-1. So I didn't want to just play all ones. Like, I thought that would be kind of loose. So I just stayed away from the 11-1 numerology, but I did find it interesting. The Celtics is 11, and like I said, I find the line to be high anyway. So I looked into the 11-1, but I'm not going to reach that stuff. Like I said, I only use gematria if it looks abundantly obvious. Now, next we got the Nets Heat. This is the first time this year we're doing the spread metric, and I'm doing it because it's early on. So last year the last team to finish with a win against the spread was 0-6, I think, and they finally got a win. So of course the Nets could lose, drop to 0-5 against the spread, but I'm sorry, it's the opposite. They could win, move to 5-0 against the spread. But I do think the Heat are going to cover them and knock the Nets to 4-1 on the spread. There's a couple teams that are undefeated against the spread. Most of them are 3-0. The Nets are 4-0, so I think they're going to move to 4-1. I like the Heat to cover, like I said. What's funny is last year the Heat were the worst team, one of the worst teams against the spread all year, but they still finished around 40%, which is why I use this logic. So yeah, Heat, I'll lay the 6.5. Cavaliers, Knicks. I thought about taking the Knicks again because they just won, and I feel like in these situations, a lot of times the public will say, okay, now it's going to go tit for tat. Even though it's in New York, I still feel like the public, it's kind of like the roulette logic. If red hits so many times, they just go black. So I feel like a lot of people might not think the Knicks are going to beat them twice in a row. That's not the reason I have the Cavaliers covering, though. I have the Cavaliers covering. It's, again, I'm only doing a few metric plays, but they're 0-4 against the spread. So the only team that's 0-4, the others are 0-3, the few that are winless against the spread. But I think the Cavaliers will cover it. And the fact that they just lost, there's a good chance that they'll get back on track. Now, again, in my last video I went into, I think the Cavaliers are going to have a huge drop-off this year. I have them missing the playoffs in my video, and it's because I just see other teams being pushed. Some that I just went into, the Pistons being one of them, Pacers being another. But again, I still think they'll get this game, and I think they'll get the cover and get off of winless against the spread. So I'll take the Cavs with the 5.5. Pelicans Thunder was one of the ones I was not going to play, to be honest. Simply because Zion versus Chet, what are they going to do? And I figured I would just sit back and watch. But I thought about it. I've said this before, and I think it bears repeating, because Chet Holmgren is a center. I mean, I think he's 7 foot tall, and he's a Big Mac heavier than Steph Curry. So that's a problem. Like, even in a fake league, I just don't see them pushing this guy as somebody who could box out a Zion without breaking his vertebrae. So I think even in this fake league, he's going to pay some dues, even though he's coming off a big, I think, 7-block game. I think he tweeted about it saying it was actually more. But I do think they're going to have him meet some resistance, and that resistance is going to come in the form of Zion, in my opinion. Again, I think he's going to be in the MVP race, whereas Chet's going to be in the Rookie of the Year race. So there's a big difference there. I still think Wemby's going to win it. Very obvious, in my opinion. Of course, I could be wrong, but yeah, I think Zion's definitely going to, flex his muscles this game, and Chet will probably have some nice plays. He's got the wingspan advantage, but that's about it. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Pelicans for the cover. And because even if they don't win, that 3.5 is vital in this game. Could definitely be an overtime game or just a very close game. Hornets, Rockets. Again, this one deviates from my video a little bit because I do have the Hornets making the play-in this year. They shedded MJ, and now I think they'll get to the playoffs, or I'm sorry, the play-in. That'll be obviously a marked improvement, and they kind of have a squad that's believable now too. So typically I would take the Hornets. I like the Rockets for the cover, though. I just think more people are going to be on the Hornets, to be honest. And I would think, if anything, that this would be like even at home. Like I said, also, when you have rookies, a bunch of young guys, I feel like they want to keep the base somewhat energized. And, they haven't won at home yet, obviously. Losing at home to the Hornets would just really, in my opinion, not help as far as attendance and ratings. So I think that, again, you have to, even the worst teams, they can't just win five. The Bobcats did it a long time ago, but again, I think that was MJ shaming. I'm pretty sure that's when MJ was there. I could be wrong. It was a long time ago, but you had like the 7-win Bobcats. But I mean, typically, especially as of late, even the worst teams, if you look at it, actually, I think the 13th and 14th seeds were only a couple games out of the play in the last couple of years. So they like to keep things somewhat close. I think the Rockets get their first win and cover it. This one's part of a parlay, I'm pretty sure, too. Like I said, I'm going to go into that in 1 second. It's just easier to cover them this way. Nuggets, Wolves. This one, I just think is a very, very fishy line. I don't know why the Nuggets aren't bigger favorites. I get they're not at home, but they're still a much, much better team. So that being said, I like the Wolves here. And for the Bulls Mavericks, it's another one where it seems like with Luka, it's always the opposite of what I pick. Last year, they would sell spreads a lot. They were literally the worst team against the spread. Still at 38%, so again, they weren't anything that was defying history, but it was really bad. And it might have been the Heat that finished worst, actually, but the Mavericks were rough. Anyone that, watched my channel knows that. I think 4 points is just kind of light here, especially being at home. I do think this game they're going to sell. I think as far as records, I think the Nuggets are going to be the one in the West that finish. So they'll be 4-0, obviously, and they'll drop it tonight, in my opinion. And I think they'll have them finish better than Dallas. So I could be wrong. And overall, I think it's going to be Boston. Like I said, I think they're going to win a few more games. But I think Mavericks is going to be more about Luka, not less about the record. So obviously they're 3-0 now. Sure, they could win again, but I think even if they do, it'll be a win no cover. I think way more people are going to be on Dallas now, so I'll take the Bulls with the 4 points. Grizzlies Jazz is another one. I think the Grizzlies finally get their first win. They're also winless against the spread. They haven't covered a spread yet, I believe, or they might have covered one, but they've just looked awful. Nothing justifies this. Again, the Jazz aren't a great team, but the Grizzlies, especially this season without Ja, they don't have Brooks either. So again, they arguably lost their 2 best players. So I don't see why money would be on the Grizzlies. That's why I like them. This Kings-Warriors matchup, I was going to take the cover, and then I decided I'm going to take the Kings to win. I like the value, and yes, you might have a good bit of the public on it. But again, the Warriors acquired Chris Paul. Now he's coming off the bench looking good. And they've done nothing to show the public that they've worsened as a team. Whereas the Kings, again, people might just not be invested. They had the first round, I think they won. Actually, they might have beat the Warriors, to be honest, in the playoffs last year. But then they got rolled. And they got beat pretty bad by the Warriors at home, obviously. So I don't see why people would be all over the Warriors. And again, Fox just signed a deal with Curry for his shoe company. So I would think that they would want Fox to look formidable. So, yeah, I think the Kings will win this game. Clippers, Lakers, one of my favorites. I like the Lakers to cover. I had brought up earlier how last year the worst team to finish against the spread was 0-6. And then they finally got their first win. Well, I introduced you to that team. It's the Lakers, of course. Who else would it be? With all the public money, I don't think it's a coincidence. So yeah, they didn't cover their first 6 spreads, and we waited just like I am this year. I waited until about the 3rd, 4th game, and then started picking them and hammering them. And by like I said, I think it was by the 3rd game we bet them, they covered. So I like the Lakers to cover the spread. Finally, win one against the spread. And like I said, some of these are parlays. I added the Pelicans Thunder when I was looking through these. I wasn't going to play it, but decided it was worth playing. Now, as you can see, most of these are covers. Celtics is moving between 11 and 11.5. But the Wizards is going to be a money line. So that's going to be almost 2-1. And The Grizzlies is just about even odds because it's 2 points or something. So you're looking at like 115, 120, but still beats the juice, which is nice. That's going to be a money line. Kings is going to be a money line, and again, that's almost 2-1. So we have the few money lines, and the one parlay I was talking about. I like the Bucks to win. Like I said, I think the Raptors will cover, but the Bucks will win, and it's also kind of like a hedge. So I like it for two reasons. And my Pistons play is in this parlay, and as you can see in the middle of it, I like the over here, over 223 for the Rockets and Hornets, both performing bad on the over this year. I am aware of the number. I always almost want to buy the half point because I wonder if it's going to fall exactly on 223. But that I noticed picking over-unders, they have that number a lot more than you would think, or 232, etc. But anyway, yeah, so I think this three-player is a nice one. I think the Bucks win's a pretty safe one. We got the Raptors covering if they don't, so I think it's a good pick. And we get the win and the no cover like I think we'll get, then it's going to be even grander. So 4.5-1, I'll take it. Lakers, like I said, laying 5. I think it's worth playing as a leg 2. My only leg 3, and again, we got a 223 here. Probably should have bought the half point, but if these both fall, if even one of these falls on that exact number, that'd be pretty crazy. Not that it hasn't happened, but I do like the over here. Both these teams really bad on the over, so I would think the public's more likely to take the under. And again, the Nets, the last team, well, not the last team winless against the spread, but they are the only team that's 4-0. The rest are 3-0. So are the Heat for the cover. So I just wanted to show which legs they were going to be. You can see we have a good bit of leg 2s because the other night we had a good bit of leg 1 losses. So we got to close them out. And I tried to get a couple plus monies in there as well. Our parlay as a leg 2 would be huge. It would be like a 7 unit net should it hit just on that one sequence. So that would be nice if that hits. But even if it doesn't, hopefully we just have a good night tonight. And the leg 2, again, our only leg 3 is the Nuggets T-Wolves over. Again, they're both horrible on the over, so I thought I would go with that. And hopefully the public will be on the under on that game. And then, yeah, the other plus money, Wizards, I think they have a good shot. Kings got a good shot. So I think we'll have a good night. If you were curious, I do think the D-backs are going to win. Get it to 3-2. I don't think it's going to be a 5-game series. I could be wrong, but I think the Rangers, if anything, they'll win it at home. So getting even odds. I don't think they're going to pay out plus odds to the Rangers 2 nights in a row. They might, you never know. But I like the D-backs to win. And yeah, I just wanted to go into that real quick because in my last video, a few people were asking me. So for tonight, I do like the Diamondbacks. So yeah, hopefully, like I said, we have a good night. I think we will. Of course, I always do. So as I always say, take care and happy earnings.